Constitution is not a mere lawyer's document. It is a vehicle of life and its spirit is always the spirit of age. With these beautiful words by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the father of our Indian Constitution, I, Sharon, along with my friends, would like to welcome you all to celebrate the Constitution Day 2020 with NK BAGRODIA Public School Sector 4 Dwarka.
The Constitution of India was drafted by the Constituent Assembly and it was implemented under Cabinet Mission Plan on 13 May 1946. Its member was chosen by indirect election by the members of Provisional Legislative Assembly that had been established under the Government of India Act 1935. The Constituent Assembly was composed roughly along the lines suggested by the plan proposed by the Committee of British Cabinet known as Cabinet Mission. As a consequence of the partition under the plan of 3rd June 1947, those members who were elected from the territories which fell under Pakistan was ceased to be the member of Constituent Assembly. The number of members of the Constituent Assembly was reduced to 299. The Constitution was adopted on 26 November 1949. Only 248 members were actually present on 24 January 1950 and appended their signature to the Constitution as finally passed.
The Nehru Report was the first attempt to prepare a constitution for India. Even though it was rejected by the Muslim League, it turned out to have some system that could be adopted, like the voting right of people, bicameral legislature, and also the most important, Bill of Rights. The draft committee that prepared by the constitution was named as Nehru Report Committee or Nehru Report. It was submitted at Lucknow by All Party Conference on August 28, 1928. It was a major event that took place in the history of constitution making of India, and thus its principle is also very important. The principle was basically this committee was made so that they could fail the Simon Commission, because the Simon Commission came to India with the sole mission of preparing a constitution for India without having a single Indian member in it. It also acted as a gulf between Congress and All India Muslim League by accepting their suggestions to some extent.
On 29 August 1947, the Constituent Assembly set up a drafting committee under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar to prepare a draft constitution for India. The committee included 6 other members, namely Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, N. Gopal Swamy, K. M. Munshi, Muhammad Sadullah, B. L. Mittar, and D. P. Khaitan. While deliberating upon the draft constitution, the Assembly moved, discussed, and disposed of as many as 2,473 amendments out of a total of 7,635 tabled. Towards the end of October 1947, the drafting committee began to scrutinize the draft constitution prepared by B. N. Rao, the constitutional advisor. It made various changes and submitted the draft constitution to the President of the Constituent Assembly on 21 February 1948. Out of 166 sittings of the Constituent Assembly, 114 were spent debating the draft constitution. The Constitution Drafting Committee under Constituent Assembly approved the proposal for forming 5 subcommittees. The Preamble and Definition Subcommittee prepared the draft of the Constitution, including preamble, introduction, emergency power, constitutional amendments, definition, explanation, and concise name, commencement and abrogation, etc. Similarly, the proposed subcommittees on fundamental rights, commissions, and the directive principles of the state drafted provisions on the fundamental rights and duties, the directive principles of the state, among others, in the new constitution. The subcommittee on judiciary prepared the draft of the structure of the judiciary and the office of the Attorney General, as well as the schedule of the constitution. The proposed legislative subcommittee formulated the draft of the constitution regarding the form of the state and the distribution of the state powers, etc. The committee concluded that it would be appropriate for the executive subcommittee to prepare the draft of the constitution regarding the federal executive, the provincial executive, the local executive, etc. The subcommittees had a maximum of 15 members and they were held responsible for preparing the preliminary draft of the constitution on topics under their jurisdiction.
Deliberation. Deliberation is the process of thoughtfully weighing options, emphasizing the use of reason and logic for conducting discussions and debates among the people. Our Constituent Assembly drew authority from the values its members brought to the deliberation. Each member deliberated upon the Constitution with the interest of whole nation in mind. There were often disagreements, but efforts were made to reach a consensus. There were legitimate differences of principle on what kind of government to be adopted, what would be the powers of judiciary, and what would be the rights of citizens. The only provision which was passed without any universal debate was universal adult suffrage, meaning the right to vote to all citizens after reaching a certain age. The members of Constituent Assembly also engaged in public reason, emphasizing on discussions and reasoned arguments. They did not only advance their own interest but gave other members principled reason for their positions, leading to the formation of one of the finest constitutions of the world. The Constituent Assembly met for 11 sessions over the span of 2 years, 11 months, and 17 days between December 1946 and November 1949. On 26 November 1949, it adopted the Constitution, which was signed by 284 members. The day has been celebrated as the National Law Day, chosen to spread the importance of Constitution and spread awareness regarding the ideas and values of Ambedkar. Ultimately, the Constitution came into force on 26 January 1950 and has been governing the state of India since then.
The final draft of the Indian Constitution, which is the longest in the world, was adopted on 26 November 1949 after almost 2 years, 11 months and 17 days. It was legally enforced on 26 January 1950, the day that we celebrate as Republic Day. The Constitution was made by the Constituent Assembly. As a consequence of the partition under Plan of 3 June 1947, those members who were elected from territories which fell under Pakistan ceased to be members of the Constituent Assembly. The number in Assembly were reduced to 299, out of which 284 were actually present on 26 November 1949 and appended their signature to the Constitution as finally passed. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is known as the father of the Indian Constitution. The Indian Constitution provides for a parliamentary form of government which is federal in structure with certain unitary features. The Constitution, rather being the longest constitution, is one of the finest constitution and takes care of each aspect of our lives and can be modified by amendments time to time.